Hello, beautiful souls. I hope this finds you well today. I remember many years ago when I was still doing body work, massage, and energy work, that the energy work could really take people very deep and still can. And I had a client who had some issues going on. I can't remember it because it's a long time ago. But this is what I remember, though, that after we finished the session, she got in touch with something inside of herself that she had not been willing to deal with, is maybe how I should say that. She realized in the session that there were things in her relationship where she was totally compromising herself and it was not right. It was very clear after the session. But then she says to me, I don't want to deal with it, so I don't want to continue this work. And that was the last session. Maybe it was just the one session, actually. I think it was. And it was like, wow. Um, to me, it feels like, wow, what an amazing awareness and insight to be shown in a session. And then we can choose if we want to change something in our lives. And I guess she did choose. She chose not to change it and stay in a place of comfort and safety and familiarity and being unhappy. And I want to just share a little bit about that today because it's very, very common. It could be, one of those things we call it a bypass, or it's just we're just not ready to face certain things in our lives where we need to make some changes in order for whatever the reason was that she came to see me, because there was something that was not right, right? So she wanted to work with me. But then we got in touch with what was not right. Then it was like, no, thank you. I want to stay in my comfort zone. That's totally fine. We all can choose whatever we was. But now it was a conscious choice for her, right? Before she was unconsciously staying there because whatever the reasons were. Now it was a conscious choice, which she also could start suppressing down with whatever else was coming up in that session. And just, live from here up and cut off the body, the wisdom of the body and the sensations. And wow, isn't that very, very common in our world? And then we wonder why we're not happy, why we keep feeling we're suffering, we're unhappy, we're lonely, we're upset with ourselves, we beat ourselves up. Because even with that unconscious pattern that she became aware of, there's always some kind of a beating yourself up for it, because underneath we do know we're not being true to ourselves and we're compromising who we truly are. And I would say the most common reasons are, we are afraid, we don't know what to do with it. It means we have to change our life, maybe completely, and that's just too big and overwhelming. Yeah, and I think they're all equally rich in the choices we make. So if you want to, as we're sharing this time together here, you can just notice if there is anything like that in you where you say, like, yeah, I know I'm doing that. And we do know. We may pretend we don't know and live right above it where the discomfort is, the emotional compromise. But underneath, we do know it because that's why we are contracting around it. And that's why we're pushing it down into the unconscious. And then it won't get dealt with. Then we at least don't have to deal with the consequences of our maybe unloving choices towards ourselves. Or maybe it is a loving choice, depending on what situation you're in. You can't compare ourselves with anybody. Maybe it is the most loving choice to stay in a situation that you know is not right for you because there might still be something about it that feels more right, and that's why we always change or we always choose what we want the most. I remember when I was writing my book, Imagine Being Kind to Yourself, the late 90s, I think. Um, no, was that the late 90s? Maybe I don't remember. It seems like a long time ago. I remember I wrote that we basically always choose what we want the most. And even though we may not know there's something deep down in our psyche that's choosing for us, usually safety, right? That's where the separate sense of self lives. That's living down there, kind of making us choose safety before anything. And you can ask yourself, are you choosing safety before anything? A lot of times when we start on the spiritual path or the path for transformation, we want to break through some of those fears. You can go and do a zip line, or you can do I mean, there's tons of things we can do, skiing in, really challenging terrain, or I mean, we can do anything like that. And many people do choose that. There's even courses in it where you walk on fire, right? On hot coals. I've done that with Tony Robbins many, many years ago. And it's kind of to challenge ourselves to get out of that fear, safety, survival mode. And that's where we all live. That's down in the first chakra. That's safety, right? Survival. And that has a very strong grip on us. And until we become aware of that, it will choose for us. It's not even a conscious choice because it's done down deep in the unconscious. And there's just always a tendency to stay safe. And I'm all for staying safe, but not at the cost of living a full life. That doesn't mean we have to all do really crazy things, but it is a really good idea to start, becoming curious about it and maybe challenging ourselves a little bit and say, is that really what I want? I mean, this woman, it became totally conscious and she chose not to go there and not to deal with it. Fine. Then another person may go like, oh my God, I've been doing this to myself. Now I see why I'm not happy. Now I want to do something about it, right? So there's an energy that comes up for transformation, for coming into your sovereignty, for taking back the power. And then that's usually when we start moving forward and start taking steps and making new choices. But that's also when we start meeting uh, the deeper fears, maybe deeper than the one you first saw that made you go like, hey, I want to move through this. And that's why many times when people set maybe New Year's resolutions or really choose to do something differently, there's this energy. And then suddenly, the big waves hit you like, oh my God, that is too scary. Let me go back to safety. And how many times have probably all of us done that in our lives? So, again, there's nothing wrong with it. I think the most important thing is to become aware what we do. And then we can choose if we want to do something differently. Do we want to change it or not? Like this client of mine, she chose not to. Like, more power to you. At least you're conscious. So just moving from doing things unconsciously, maybe being a doormat or, always, I don't know, always saying you're sorry, being sorry and apologizing for yourself. It's like you live in this place where you're not in your sovereignty. And it doesn't feel good. It may feel safe or it may seem safe, but it isn't. You just contract even deeper away from your divine expression. And that's, in my experience, that is really the only place where true safety is found, even in the midst of chaos going on. It's like, can I stay here and can I be fully true to myself and to others? Because that is when it really becomes where we step into that power that we are, and move through the fears of being different and being having your own, dancing to the tune of your own music and going in this direction when everybody else goes in that direction. That takes a lot of courage. And you probably know that because most people, they go with what everybody else does, right? That's where we are, the little robots just following. And but there's no uniqueness in it. There's no um, divine freshness. It's like this herd of robots or herd of sheep that, and I'm not wanting to embarrass the sheep because I love sheep. I think they're amazing beings, like all animals are, but they tend to follow, right? And that is also something that we do in order to stay safe. So, as I'm speaking that right now, I wonder, is there a different way we can choose to stay safe? And what I have found in my own life, that I actually feel the safest when I'm here and speaking my truth, not always everywhere, because that sometimes it would not be wise to do that because you might really get in deep trouble. But it's like knowing what your truth is, at least speak it to yourself first. Like with this client again, I don't know why she came up, but it's a good example. If she's true to herself, she will admit to herself and say, I'm afraid to leave my partner. I'm afraid to be alone, and whatever other stories there are there. But she's honest about it. So in that, there is already a shift of energy that helps her maybe get closer in touch with what is really true for her, what she really wants. Because at the surface layer, we all want to be safe. That's the first thing we always run into. I want to be safe. But then when we question that and work with that, then we get underneath that. And then what we're feeling is much more important is like, gosh, I just want to be myself. I don't want to follow all these rules. I want to follow my inner expression, my own divine rules, my values, my core values. And if they don't resonate with somebody else, then I still want to be present with them. I still want to honor myself. So you can see it always comes down to that self-love, right? Can I love myself enough to at least be honest with myself and say, yeah, I really want deeper, but I'm not there yet. I'm still too identified with staying safe, feeling safe. So little by little, each layer, as we meet that, then we can start making different choices, many times with the support of somebody, could be a teacher, a guide, a coach, whatever, a therapist, to do that in in a relationship where we can practice it so that before we speak our truth to others, we can maybe just set it up as a little experiment with a safe person and start speaking your truth. And then you start feeling a different relationship to yourself where when it's being received by the therapist or the guide or whatever, and it's okay, then something can start relaxing inside. It's like, oh, it's like you can open up more to that experience of who you are because now it's safe. And then this muscle can start growing where you start, you might feeling more safe. Maybe you start saying something to somebody where it's safe outside of the therapist or teacher situation. And little by little, you start becoming more comfortable being yourself. And again, this is my experience, but I do believe we need a lot more people who are comfortable being fully who they are. And that does entail that there are people who are not going to like you because they want you to be like them. If you haven't noticed that, right? Most people want others to be like us, but it doesn't work that way. So this is a little invitation again, to just start practicing being who you are, and then all these unique beings can start expressing new ideas coming from the field. So as we step out of the robotic life where we just follow rules, like little robots, then we can open up to the field, and then a whole new ideas, new expressions come through. And I think there is a big need for that right now. As we see, the old paradigm crumbling like everywhere, and it's probably not over yet. Why don't we start tuning into the new earth or the new paradigm that's here, that wants our attention here through the longing that I always talk about, so we can become the new sprouts of the new earth in this dimension. We just need to make ourselves available for it by stepping out of the fear of being the same as everybody else in the old paradigm. You start going like that. I don't want to do that. Well, what do you want to do? What would replace your experience for what you really want? And then that's where we start connecting inside. Yeah. So if you need help with that, of course, you are welcome to reach out to me and maybe set up a self-discovery session and see if you want to do some of the deeper work, maybe being witnessed in who you truly are and start feeling more courageous and safe in that. It's very safe to be yourself. Maybe not in front of everyone, but in front of people who are like you and who respect that and invite that. Yeah, it's very safe. It's very beautiful. And you're also welcome to join my monthly online gathering called Feel Your Deepest Longing, Find Your Divine Calling. It's all going to be in the descriptions below. All right, my friends, be yourself and find out who you really are and how amazing it is to be yourself. Thank you so much.